again, well, thank you all for having us. And we don't realize how big Burke County is. I left the house this morning at 6 o'clock. I packed my lunch. I had my lunch about halfway out, and I got here at the appropriate time. But you just don't realize, I mean, Burke County from one end to the other, from Jonas Ridge out here, I mean, it's a big county. And I forgot how far this really is out here. And but again, we just thank you for hosting us. And we have a fairly light agenda today. We have one presentation, and then we have a bunch of consent items on our agenda. And with that, we'll go ahead and we want to, on the consent agenda, because of time limit for a gentleman here, we want to move number one, we want to move number 9 up to number 1 if we could. And with that, we'll go ahead. All the commissioners are present. We thank you all for coming. And I believe the speakers can come up to this table here. And with that, we'll go ahead and ask for approval of the agenda as it's printed. Thank you, Jack. Again, you heard the motion from Jack. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All present, all accounted for, and it's passed. Thank you. So with that, we'll go ahead and move to the first presentation, and that's a co-op extension.
Good afternoon.
Talk loud.
How are you?
We're good, thank you.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Great. I will be giving a presentation, basically an update of our numbers of youth involved in our 2015 numbers, that just a report to the people of our community clubs and youth that have been active in school enrichment programs and 4-H here in Burke County.
Good, thank you, Nikki. Any questions for Nikki or what she's going to present? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have no public hearings today, and with that, I'll turn it over to, let's see, first one is on consent agenda, item 1, removal from adult home care, and I think the clerk has about 5 or 6 things on the free agenda. We'll turn that over to Kay.
You gonna hear number 9?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to number 9. Number 9, Alan.
Brian, you want to start and me to chime in, or you want me to just go ahead?
I'll let you go, and that way there won't be any confusion.
You're not going to hear over the speakers.
What we are working to do is we have solicited for applications to submit a brownfields grant. There are actually 2 grants in this. There's one that's for petroleum-based contaminants and one for non-petroleum based. So each of those is $200,000, so it'd be a $400,000 grant. BDI has been working with some partners on this, and the idea is to get this to help start the cleanup process on properties in the community that there might be contaminants. It could help with the cost of phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments. We were not allowed as Burke Development to be the applicant on this. It has to be either a municipality, a county government, or someone chartered by the county to apply for them. But we can act as the people who help with the process, and the counties would be limited as a flow-through on this, and we would take care of working with the consultant, making sure that he files the reports and gets them passed through in a timely manner. It not only helps with the cleanup of these blighted areas, but it can also help with the planning on how they can be marketed to bring them back as to usable properties. We have identified probably 2 or 3 sites that can be included in this, and we suspect that there are others that may be identified as time goes on. This can even go so far as filling stations maybe that are closed, that have tanks that have not been removed, if those are identified. But it can also go to larger industrial properties that could have some use for us to backfill or infill that currently exist. Example is the plant in Drexel or the 3 and 5 facilities in Morganton. Those are just two that we've looked at, and also the Henry Don facility that is over close to the shopping center. I think we have 3 applicants
Yes.
that we will be choosing from. And once that decision is made, then, as I say, they would go through and help us with the grant process.
Yeah, and that is, the review has been completed, and is it the Cardon was the company that we feel had the best qualifications to do this and had the best track record of successes, and we would make the recommendation to move forward with the Cardon. Okay.
Questions for Alan? Alan, let me ask you one. I noticed quite a few gas stations, back one coming out here at the interstate. Do they make them take up the tanks when they close, or how do they work that?
I'm not positive on that, but I don't think that would happen unless somebody came in behind them to redevelop that property. They don't lose their responsibility for that. But I don't know that there's any statute that I'm not positive on that. I don't think there's any statute that requires them to remove those tanks.
Other questions for Alan?
Mr. Chairman, I only had one and he halfway answered it. I had a question, are we allowed to know the sites or location? And I think he kind of filled in where those possibilities may be. So,
we would definitely report back to you the sites that we are reviewing and have been reviewed and what actions are being taken on those.
Other comments, questions? Good, thank you, Alan, appreciate it. All right, again, we'll go back to consent agenda, items 1 through 6, and that's all Kay, our clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Concerning the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, the regional ombudsman, Christina Franklin, requests the removal of Todd Mockler, seat number 2. He has resigned, and Chuck B, seat number 5. He is moving away from the county, so we are asking that those 2 members be removed from the roster.
All right. Item 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is concerning the Western Piedmont Council of Governments Regional Aging Advisory Committee. The county appoints 4 members to this 16-member advisory committee. The aging director, Tina Miller at the COG, requests the the appointment of Jerry Probst to fill seat number 3, which is vacant for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2018.
All right, if there's no objection, this item will remain on the agenda. Item 3.
Okay, this is for the Burke County Board of Adjustment. The terms of Judy Cook, seat number 1 in the east, Douglas Hall, seat number 4 for the west, have ended. Ms. Cook is not seeking reappointment, and Mr. Hall resigned. The board is asked to remove their names from the roster and thank them for their service. Staff requests that Doris Smith, who is currently serving as seat number 7 as the west alternate, be appointed to fill seat number 4, which is west, as a regular member due to her experience in planning and zoning matters. The term would be for 3 years. Staff further requests that Mario Sahechi be appointed to seat number 7 as the west alternate to complete Mrs. Smith's unexpired term.
Any comments or questions from the board? Being none, without objection, that will remain on the agenda. Item 4.
This is for the Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee. The regional ombudsman, Christina Franklin, requests the removal of Sean Collins, seat number 1, and Gwen Huffman, seat number 7, from the roster. The terms for these members have ended, and they do not wish to be considered for reappointment.
Comments, questions? If not, that item will remain on the agenda. Item 5.
All right, this is for the Burke County Planning Board. Russell Bridges' term for seat number 2 for the East ended September 30th, and he has served the maximum number of terms. We received an application from Bobby Costner, Valdez, for this seat. In addition, Alan Scholl's term for seat number 5 in the West also ended September 30th, and he has submitted an application for reappointment.
Comments or questions from the board?
Sounds good.
If not, that'll stay on the agenda. Item 6K.
Mr. Chairman, can I go
Go ahead.
back to
Yeah.
item number 1, the Adult Care Home Advisory Committee? Kay, will you answer this for me? I see one member of that board out of 9 positions. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do we anticipate anybody else coming on that board?
Well, we will try to, we're always trying to get applications, but that board has been, it's hard to fill for every county across the state. And I have talked with Ms. Franklin about merging the adult care and the nursing home boards together, to try to fix that. It's something, they're considering, but, I'm not sure if the nursing home, committee wants to take on that additional work, but it's a hard nut to crack.
Mr. Chairman, I would hope we'd take a look at this, because every time this board comes up, out of the 9 positions, 7 are typically vacant. And if there's any way we could put those 2 boards together or encourage them strongly to come together, I probably think we should.
Do we know when and if they've had a meeting? When's the last meeting, Kay?
I don't believe they can meet, Mr.
There's no
Taylor.
quorum, so how do you meet?
Well, I think they're visiting the facilities kind of on a voluntary basis, just to check in, but they don't have
I think we're doing the county a disservice if somebody's just volunteering to go by and take a look. I don't think we're treating our citizens right. Again, Mr. Chairman, if there's any way you can encourage somebody to do something about that one, I wish you would.
Okay, have you sort of met with them already to try to get them to merge, or?
Well, Christina and I have had that conversation. It can be done, I think, and, I can even tell you when I was in Cabarrus County with their population, we never had a full board there either. Now, it wasn't quite to this level of vacancy, but it's a hard board to fill. We can, we have our outreach efforts, but, volunteerism as a whole is kind of on a downward trend. And a lot of these facilities, people, they want to go during business hours, so that cuts out the working class.
Is this a statutory board?
It is.
So maybe we can work on that a little bit and maybe look at a merger or something if we can.
I can get, Ms. Franklin to send us something on what
All right.
she thinks would be best.
Mr. Chairman, it might help us as commissioners to help get people to volunteer if we had a little quick review at our meeting of, the goal and the purpose of that board. Who are we looking for? What type of persons are we looking for to complete the board? Do we need a doctor on the board, a nurse on the board, or?
They're at-large positions, and, basically, they inspect adult care home facilities to ensure that the patient's Bill of Rights are being followed. And I certainly have some information that I can provide you, but if you would like Ms. Franklin to come, I can work on
All right.
getting her up here.
And let's see, do we do 6?
Veteran Service Board.
Yeah. Veteran Service Board.
All right, the Veteran Service Officer, Ms. Molly, requests the reappointment of David Herbigin, seat number 3, and Edward Ware, seat number 4. Their term, they have both submitted an application for reappointment.
Any comments on that board? Questions? If not, that'll stay on the consent agenda. Thank you, Kay. All right, 7, community development, approval of abandoned manufactured homes. Deputy James Marler.
Good afternoon, Board. How is everybody today?
Good, wonderful.
This is just an approval of the abandoned manufactured home grant between North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality and Burke County. Since the application back in March at the Board of Commissioners meeting, you guys approved the removal of 6 manufactured homes on Amherst Road, 1605 and 1625. That work has since been completed. I'm sure you guys have got the photos. As of September the 19th, that job is completed and the site is clear. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I went by that site the other day and I was happy after all the years that it's all cleaned up. And those were really, trees were growing up around them. It wasn't probably an easy job to remove them.
The contractor had some difficulties with his machinery, so I had to give him a 2-week extension on just the work process because of that. I think it was scheduled to be done. The work was supposed to be completed by September the 5th, but it took a couple of weeks extra just because of equipment failure.
Well, we really thank you for getting that done. Any comments or questions for James?
Mr. Chairman, may I have the liberty to bring up a project that I've been requested to bring to the board's attention, and that's the River Bend Trailer Park. And the reason I wanted to bring it up today is that on your way back, if you'll go down there and hit Johnson Bridge Road, and just before you get to the Henry River Bridge, it's on your right. And it is in such disarray. There must not be more than 2 or 3 renters left.
Last I had count, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner, there was about 8 in that park.
Yeah, but I understand it's owned, I've been told this, I haven't researched it. It's owned by a firm or somebody out of Florida, is that correct?
No, the last contact I had was a Riverbend LLC out of Asheville.
Out of Asheville.
Yes. That's what's on GIS as well.
Well, it would be compliment to a chicken house next to your door. I mean, it's that bad. It's just, a chicken house would be a compliment beside of that being next to your house. There must be, how many, 50, 60 homes in there?
Some of them are partially dismantled already. I care to venture at least 30, at least on the easy side. That is another current case that I'm still working on. I have exceeded my civil citations in the amount of 3, and I have not heard the first word out of the owners.
Yeah. I'm doing what I said I would do. I would bring it to the commissioners. I did drive by a week or 2 ago, ride through there. It is, it's really bad. I'd appreciate if y'all would ride by there, and if you have any recommendations or where, I don't know if I know that these grants are far and few in between, and you only have room for about, let's see, $1,500 a piece. You got $12,000 budget for 2 years. That's $6,000 a year. So you can see that that's not going to go far at that. But I would like to see either through an attorney or make some kind of appeal for that homeowner to clean that up for that owner. But that'd be up to the board to make that recommendation.
Mr. Attorney, when they're still operating and they have that many abandoned homes, I mean, they're making money off that. Is there any way as a county we can, put some heat on them to get rid of the ones that are in total disarray, or what?
We can bring suit against them.
And is there any consequences if we do that? I mean, that we...
And get a court order to order them cleaned up.
Is that something that we should look at, or?
Definitely. I know as far as the zoning aspect of it, once a mobile home park has less than 3 tenants, they lose their mobile home park status, in which they're, last I had, like I said, 7 or 8 tenants in the entire park. So technically they still have their mobile home park status on the zoning side of it.
Is there still, way out Burkemont Road, that one on, is that about the same condition, or has that one been? cleaned up the way out on Burton.
They're still out there, but it's changed hands a couple of times since I initiated the first case. I did have a prospective Ken Coffey, gentleman came into my office and he was going to make an offer to the current property owner on that property, and I haven't heard. And, that's
And there's
probably-
abandoned ones in there, I
Yes,
believe.
there's 6 or 8 in there as well.
Well, I think as a board, I mean, this is an eyesore in the county. I mean, it's awful, and when you drive by these places, it's not pleasant. And
It's
like
a
I
hell-
say, we got a beautiful county. I think as commissioners, we should do everything we can to put some heat on these guys to,
It's a health situation too.
Yeah.
Safety, health, but just, we can discuss it later, but just if you get the opportunity, drive by there on the way back. You'll hit Highway 10 out there at the old Children's Furniture Market and hang a left and you'll go right back on I-40. It won't be a mile out of your way.
is that something, Brian, that we would have to put on another agenda as a decision item, or can we have the county
Yes,
attorney as a board?
Well, I think the county attorney could come back and give you an idea of what kind of cost we're looking at and get you to authorize him moving forward with that if the board wants to at another.
Yeah, we could do that at the regular meeting.
All right. Johnny?
Did we get the tipping fees off of the Amherst property from the owner?
I'm still currently working on the final figures with Tim Johnson that took over Brock Hall's position in the community development. He's been gracious enough to kind of step in and kind of help out with that, but we're in the final processes of that.
All right, if you would look into that, JR, and bring that back to, that we would have on our regular meeting. And I think it's time we take action. I mean, this just goes on and on and on.
And that's for the River Bend. trailer
Oh,
park.
both of them, I
Yeah,
think, if
one
you,
on Burton.
yeah, let's go after both of them. They've been there a long time, and, I mean, they've been there, I guess, 30 years or longer. I mean, they've been here since I've been here.
All of them are pre-1976 with
Yeah.
the metal roof and aluminum siding, mobile homes. So several of them in River Bend have been upgraded to the vinyl siding and shingled roof, but there are not very many of those.
If it's all right with the board, we'll put that as a decision item on our regular meeting.
I have a question. Has county been in contact with this LLC out of Asheville about this situation?
Just other than certified letters, no, sir. Some of them have been accepted, and some of them have been returned unclaimed.
I think that's one thing we need to do is notify the individual, that LLC, whoever that may be, notify whoever it is and tell them what our plans are to go and get a court order to do something about that part out there. And that'd be the cheapest way to do it.
We can try that. In the past, though, I tell you, when we've dealt with these items, the registered letters most generally come back to us.
And the River Bend, speaking of that one, I've talked to several neighbors around that area that have given me different names and different phone numbers. I've tried all of them, and it comes up dead ends. So
Who do those people pay the rent to?
I've asked them that, and they sent it to Asheville.
Send it to Asheville, got an address to send it to?
Hmm. I don't have it in front of me, but yes, there's an address in Asheville.
That would be a good place to start.
Mhm.
Find out where the address is and see who owns the box or whatever, and trace them down that way.
When we need to start, I don't know if we can get all the questions answered and the procedure in line for our regular meeting, but if we do, that's fine. If not, we can do it at another meeting.
All right.
And I believe, Mr. Chairman, that River Bend is one of those property owners that we're foreclosing on, for tax foreclosure.
All right. So without, I think we'll feel like we'll put that on decision one way or the other and get some information. But I know you guys write letter after letter, and in the past, some of the just single mobile homes that we had where people moved out of them, can't trace the owner, you can't ever get the letter, and it's a blight on our county. I don't, these people have made money on these places for 30-some years. I have no feeling for these slumlords, I'll tell you right now.
I'm right there with you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't, they made the money, they abandoned them, and then we're stuck,
I
so.
think this is the third owner, and
Yeah.
I've been told that, but I know the original owner was,
But since it's on our consent agenda, I think it's time to take action on our regular
Green Hill,
meeting.
Green Hill was first on it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, unless there's any other questions. Number 8 and 10 are both Brian. One is the Drexel Barn for Animals, and one is DOT and Ola Road.
Yes, sir. On the Drexel Barn, we need a location in case the sheriff's department has a run-in where they have to confiscate a large number of animals, especially if they're horses. There's a place to store them. And we've worked with the town of Drexel for a rent on an as-needed basis. Daily rental will be $35, and Drexel has approved the agreement on September the 6th.
Questions for Brian on that?
Just a comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman. It looks like we could, well, really two questions or two thoughts on this. The people who give up those animals ought to pay the fee. And it's obviously there's a need there. And I wondered, you know, if you do 30 days at 35, that's $1,050. Can we get a lower deal if we do a month by month?
We don't know if we even need it. This is as needed, and it may be this year, it may be 2 years from now.
Other
Okay.
comments or questions? If not, this item will remain on the agenda. Brian, number 10.
Gentlemen, we've been working with NCDOT about the right-of-way that involves us and the school system, and we've gotten the cash amounts for the right-of-way, and for a portion of the road, I think is the school systems is $336,275, and for the county's portion there on Government Drive is $53,500, and the DOT is asking for just, I guess, some kind of official action by the board to recognize those amounts. And they will move forward cutting the checks to us, and that will enable us to start moving forward probably in the spring on contracting with NCDOT to make the repairs to Government Drive. And then the board approves, we will petition NCDOT to take over permanent maintenance at Government Drive and make it a state road.
All right, comments or questions from the board?
We've been doing this for several years. I think a order, glass of tea or milk or something ought to be in order. Finally got it resolved, so,
We had to twist some arms.
yes, I know.
All right. Any other comments? If not, without objection, that will remain on the agenda. Item 11, Foothills Medical Transit, Tammy Fight. Tommy, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Members of the board, howdy. My name's Tommy Fight. I am owner of Foothills Medical Transit. And we're here before you today just to give you a brief history of our company real fast. Started out of the backyard of my home. Blood, sweat, and tears poured in over the last 4 years. We've turned into a fairly successful handicapped transport company, transporting handicapped folks from facilities inside this county to doctor's appointments, things like that. Currently, we are contracted with every single skilled nursing facility in this county, and as well as the entire CHS Blue Ridge region, including both hospitals, Grace Heights, College Pines, and Grace Ridge. And as an owner of a small business, I think a lot of you folks can appreciate the fact that you pour your life into your business to try to get it be successful by providing, you know, this county with exceptional service and things like that. And having done that, not bragging, but just the point is that as an owner, it's my passion to provide excellent service in everything that we do. And in having done that, we've asked more to be put on us, particularly from the hospital itself. And from that, we have began transporting voluntary committal patients for them, as there's no general statutes necessarily in place for those. And we have been transporting those patients with 100% success record as to date. However, as part of that, and with the services we provided them, now they have asked us to step that up even further to transport involuntary committal patients. And in my research of doing that, Ms. Kay has been absolutely fantastic in helping me present this for you folks today, and I'm grateful for your time and appreciation that you're listening me out on this. You're looking at a fellow with just a high school education. I don't have any college or anything like that. I'm nothing special as far as that goes, but the Lord's blessed me with talents and some intelligence, and we've researched this and understand the responsibility that goes into these transports. And as such, in place already, before we would even do our first transport on these, we have our liability policies that the Morgan Agency has gladly given me face sheets if you gentlemen like to see our existing liability policies to handle these. We are fully insured through the to meet the DMV requirements for for-hire tags and things like that. And we have brought into service retired police interceptors that have the caged units in there to protect driver and patients in these transports. We will be hiring current, retired, and former police officers with acceptable training to be able to transport these folks. And to help support our case, in front of you guys in your part of your packet, included there is letters of support from the hospital itself, including the emergency department nursing director, and the director himself has given us our support. Steve Wisnett has written us a letter of support to lighten the burden from the county. I mean, you guys realize there's a lot of these transports that goes out at full staff. The Burke County Sheriff's Department has 7 officers to take care of this entire county. And just like Mr. Abel was saying a while ago, it takes forever to go from one end to the other. 7 officers on duty at any time at full staff is not a very good, number to have, especially when you're having to send one to Raleigh, Charlotte, wherever. So we're asking you guys today for your blessing and support to allow us to be able to transport involuntary committal patients. We believe that we're fully staffed and have the abilities to do that, and I will be free and glad to answer any questions you folks might have.
Tommy, in your remarks, we believe as a county, everybody's special. And we also are, most of these patients, Medicaid and Medicare,
I'm not sure exactly.
or do you have to bill?
As far as the cost goes, the county is completely off the hook here. We are contracted with the hospital directly, and they're the ones that foot the 100% of this bill. It's between them and the Medicaid. We bill the hospital directly, absolutely zero cost to you folks.
Other comments and questions for Tommy?
Mr. Chairman, I have 2. I guess the biggest thing, how wide is the scope of your service? Now, you list in there county to county, but if somebody needs to be transported to Duke, you do that, or?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, the farthest that we've gone already for the hospital is to Raleigh and Winston-Salem, including one to almost Wilmington. So we can go state to state. We're not restricted by other things. The reason we're here today is because the general statutes of the county require us to present ourselves before the county commissioners and to get that permission to be able to transport these.
And Wayne,
No, you're
Mr. Chairman, the other question I had was, what effect, any, will it have on EMS's service and/or budget? Do we know that question, answer to that?
We don't transport mental patients in the EMS that I'm aware of.
So all these would be,
It'd either be a deputy or it'd be him or somebody else similar to him.
so have absolutely no effect? Okay.
And if I may, gentlemen, just past year, you guys allowed another company to do these transports, and nothing on them at all. I assume they can do what they can. But the problem is that there are many times where the hospital will get one of these patients. They have a very narrow window to get these folks where they need to be. And there's been many, many cases, and I think that's what the letter of intents are there of support for us. We offer a 1 to 2 hour response window. We're very fast. We're located right here in the county. We're not out of county. Guys, we're in your backyard. And we respond very, very quickly. We're offering a 24-hour service. The other companies do not. And again, with your sheriff's department, they're the ones that's getting tugged with a lot of this burden. And we feel that we can really lighten that burden on these guys, big time.
Other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Tommy, and without objection, that'll stay on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
All right, item 12 is general services, water leak credit policy. Chris? I think we discussed this a little at another meeting, I believe, right?
We did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Before I do that, I'll give you a quick update, if I may, about the CDBG grant that we addressed the last two meetings. The news is that that grant was completed and the application was completed and submitted on time, a couple days, 2 days, I think, before the deadline. So now we wait. This is for the water extension down 18 and Roney Road. Now we wait until the last week in February, be the first of March, with fingers crossed and bated breath in hopes of that grant is funded. But it did make the deadline, and I appreciate your support on both the public hearing and on my asset management plan. So yes, Mr. Chairman, you're right. It was brought to the board last 1 month ago at the meeting, the pre-agenda meeting, and there were a few questions and that were asked about the policy and some revisions that were asked for. So I know you have the copy of the new revised. I'll go through quickly the three. It's just three. I think it was Commissioner Britton that wasn't comfortable with the catastrophic, what would you call it? I guess a credit, and that piece has been struck out. Then Commissioner Carswell wanted the final word on this to be the General Services Department, and then along with that, the county manager wanted to have which I appreciate, a second, so that we have two different groups that are taking a look at it. So if you look at number 6, to address both Mr. Carswell and the county manager's request, final authority on whether an adjustment request meets the policy and will be awarded rests with the County of Burke General Services Director and the Finance Officer as a second. So with those three edits, the policy would be for your approval at the meeting.
Good, thank you, Chris. Questions or comments on the changes? I think you addressed all those changes. Any other comments? Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
And that'll stay on the consent agenda, and I believe you have number 11 also.
Yes, this is a project that sort of
Sorry,
birthed.
13.
Yes, that's correct. This project birthed itself last year and is now drug over due to the complexity of the job. But as you may be very well aware, DOT has been in the process of doing a lot of bridge enhancements throughout the state, and Burke County's no exception. We've had 3 over the past year that I've been here. This is the last one and the largest one, Johnson Bridge Road there at the dip over Henry River. They're replacing that bridge. It's an old bridge in need of, the deck is bad, and they say the railing doesn't meet current spec. Well, we have a water line that's in the area that will be impacted by that. You approved the contract with our engineer to do that job. Wes did the design, and they bid the job out to a company that is escaping my mind at this moment. But the real story is the total dollars for that job is to be funded by DOT. So we pay for it, and they'll reimburse us 100%. So the item that's before you is to increase my budget, the Water Sewer General Services budget, by $61,950, which is the amount that DOT will reimburse us. But it is not in my budget at this time, so we want to increase it so that it'll be there to pay for, and then we're reimbursed after the work's complete.
Thank you, Chris. Comments or questions for Chris?
The only comment I had, I think the payback date was after the budget year, so this money will be used until September 2017, I believe was the payback date, if I'm remembering correctly. So you're gonna be in and out of your budget this year without reimbursement.
I'll have to fall back to my
Paul, is that,
finance officer for that.
how does that work?
Yeah, typically anything you start 1 year that's under contract, by statute, you have to fund continuing contract. So, we'll start this year, whatever doesn't get finished this year, we will automatically roll into 17, 18 budget year.
Well, the reason is obviously is to make sure we don't forget to get those funds back into our budget.
We
I
don't
don't think
forget.
61,000, I don't think we're gonna forget, I hope.
It went past the year end of June 30th, and that's,
Any other comments or questions for Chris? All right, thank you, Chris, and without objection, that item will remain on the consent agenda. Item 14, Health Department, Rebecca, and this is approval of the new ultrasound lease. Rebecca, did you find your way out here all right?
I love coming out here. My clinical nursing supervisor lives across the
Oh, is that
street.
right?
I have another staff member who lives down the road. We do health fairs out here at the church down the road, and we're also partners. If you didn't know, this is one of our permanent check-in stations for child passenger safety here in the county.
All right.
We have Valdez Fire Department and George Hildebrand Fire Department. They've been our partners now for about 10 or 11 years.
Good.
So Richard, wherever he went, chief, he went on a call. He and a couple of the other firefighters are the ones who actually are the ones who install seats down here. So we have a
Okay.
real strong relationship.
Great, we didn't know that, thank you.
Little tidbit, because it is pretty down here. I like to come down here. I come before you today because things usually tend to break and you don't know that they're going to break, or they start having problems. And what we're looking at this year is our ultrasound machine. We use our ultrasound machine with our prenatal patients. And the one that we have right now was purchased back in 2009 for $28,340. In trying to look at how much a new one would cost, to be around $33,700. I was not going to come and ask y'all out of general budget if I could have $33,700. And we have this visual screens on it are starting to go to where it would be a liability issue for us when we do our imaging with our prenatal patients. We have a problem because, as you know, the clients that we serve at the health department, many of them do not have another party payer source, and even if they have Medicaid pays so slowly that they're not getting reimbursed on a timely manner. So the one company who is in the county who will do x-rays or ultrasounds for us, because the hospital does not do them. They do not have the volume and they quit doing them a couple of years ago. Blue Ridge Medical Group does them, and then there's a private company in the county who does them, but they do not want to see patients that will not be paid for. So we got to thinking and said, what's a smart way to think outside the box? We would like to lease this machine for 5 years with an extended warranty, because every time a piece breaks, it's at least $10,000, and it has a 1-year warranty. But in leasing the machine for 5 years with an extended warranty for the same period of time, with the 3 quotes that we have before you that are up there, we can pay for it with no cost to our budget, because when we bill, we get reimbursed. So what I am proposing and asking for, with no impact to our budget, because it would be money in, money out, because we right now are currently doing it twice a month, 2 days a month. And with the $592 thereabouts per month that we would have to pay on a lease, we would have that money. And I'm just asking if we can have a 5-year lease with an extended warranty, so that if anything happens to it, it's already paid for when they come out. And I'll take any questions.
Comments, questions? This is something you have to have.
It is a standard of care for prenatal patients to have at least 2 scans. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have 2. I looked at your quotes, and some of them said at the end of your lease, $1 and it's yours, but I didn't find it on this. At the end of 60 months, do we keep the machine, or is it returned?
It is returned, and we will go and look at, see if we can do another lease. I have figured out with these high dollar machines, Mr. Taylor, that it does not behoove us to buy them anymore, that we do better to go into it and lease it. It's like a new car. As soon as we have it for a year, well, if you drive a new car off the lot, it's not new anymore. But with the machines that we found, truly, with ultrasound machines, the technology is such that after a year, you're gonna pay an arm and a leg. So going forward, we will probably just lease.
Okay. Well, you lease it, I rounded it off at six, it's $36,000 for 60 months.
Yes, sir.
But I guess, and the other question is, you know, how frequent is it used, or how many times a year or month, or?
We actually do them at this point in time. We're able to do it twice a month, and we do 2 whole days in the month, and we're able to do 16 in a day.
16 a day.
So that's 32 in a month.
And the charge for that?
They vary on the scan that the person has, but it's based off how much they can pay, but it runs anywhere from $114 to $300. And again, that's based on what the doctor wants. If they're looking to see, you know, how far along the person is versus if they're looking for something on an anatomy scan, if there might be something that's actually wrong.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments or questions?
Rebecca, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Since we won't own the machine,
Correct.
do we have the ability to walk away from it anytime during the 5-year period and owe them anything? I mean, not owe them anything?
I'd have to read that fine print on that one.
Rebecca, run through the revenue stream again. How are we gonna get the payment?
Our maternity patients, many of them are Medicaid eligible, and we bill Medicaid for the services we provide. We pay a tech to come in, and we charge, that person charges us $40 a scan to come in right now. And we pay them, but then we also, like I said, for each scan we do, they run anywhere from $114 to $300. And when we get reimbursed from Medicaid, we get usually, if we do the $300 scan, which is a real current thing that we usually, or a common thing we do, we usually get around $220 or $230. So when we do, looking at the numbers of how many that we actually do, we will usually bring in between $10,000 and $12,000 a year. Then when we pay out for the scan for how much we do per year, we still had enough money left over to pay, excuse me, my water's over there, to pay the $592 plus or minus monthly fee.
Thank
Yes, sir.
Other
And I'll
comments or
have to read the fine
questions?
print, Paul.
Paul, you're all right with that?
Well, we need to find out the answer to that.
On the question you asked? All right,
I'll read the fine print while I'm sitting
All
here.
right.
So I brought mine.
all right, so you'll know by the meeting.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, and
Thank you
Rebecca will
for
bring us
considering.
that information at our meeting. That will stay on the consent agenda if there's not any objection. All right, item 15 is for the Sheriff's Department, approval of authorized signers for the civil bank account. I think, according to the agenda, there's been a retirement, so they need to add somebody to the signers.
The account signature card for the civil account needs to be updated in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 159.25.7B. So it reflects the personnel changes that have taken place at the sheriff's office. Steve Griffiths is the lieutenant over the civil division and needs to be added as an authorized signatory to the account. Herman LaFevers, who is retired, needs to be removed as a signatory. And Reginald Wilson is the sergeant of civil, and his name would remain on there, because that's still part of his duties.
And that gives you 4 people, including Paul, signing those accounts. Any questions, comments? All right, without any objection, that'll stay on the consent agenda. Item 16 is also the Governor's Crime Commission Light and Camera Grant.
The sheriff's office has been awarded a grant through the Governor's Crime Commission for the purchase of dedicated weapon lights and an under-the-door camera system. Weapon lights will be mounted on the newly purchased CP320 service weapons and will help increase officer safety as well as safety of the citizens of the county. The under-the-door camera system will be used in situations where someone may be barricaded in a structure, and it will give deputies an opportunity to have a better picture of the situation that may require some type of tactical entry. It's going to increase officer safety and provide an opportunity to make better and informed decisions to help keep the citizens of Burke County safe. The total amount of the grant is $24,251.60. The cost for the gun lights is $11,541.60, and the under-the-door camera system is $12,710. The funds will be available on October 1st, and reimbursed for the project can be requested as soon as the purchases have been made and the reporting requirements are met. All purchases would be made before June 30th, 2017, and reimbursements would be requested no more than 30 days after that purchase.
Good, thank you. Any comments and questions on that? It's completely reimbursed.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I got one question. Do they fit the holsters, or how are they gonna attach the lights?
Or they'll attach to the weapon itself,
Yes.
and will fit in the holsters we have.
Other comments or questions? All right, without objection, that'll remain on the consent agenda. 17, Governor's Crime Commission side scan sonar grant.
The Sheriff's Office has been awarded a grant through the Governor's Crime Commission for the purchase of an Edge Tech side scan sonar system. The purchase of the equipment will be provided to the Sheriff's Office, will provide the Sheriff's Office with a valuable tool that will assist with lake security, as well as being an invaluable tool for search operations. Part of the grant requirement is that the Sheriff's Office will be willing to assist surrounding communities when able to do so. The amount of this grant would be $44,175. The cost of the side scan sonar system is $39,175, and an additional $5,000 is being provided for on-site installation, training, and travel expenses for the staff from Edge Tech. Grant funds also available October 1st, and reimbursement for the project can be requested as soon as all the purchases are made, all the reporting requirements met, and all purchases would be made before June 30th, 2017. And again, the reimbursement will be requested no more than 30 days after the purchase, and it would also be a full reimbursement.
Good, thank you. Comments or questions?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, John.
How far is surrounding communities, how far we gotta go, help people?
Well, it's just if available, and it would just, mainly just surrounding counties, because now what we've had to do in a number of occasions, if there's been a drowning, Charlotte has come and assisted, or we've had North Catawba has come and assisted. And it's not a mandatory, you have to go. It's, do you have somebody that's available? Is it something you can do?
Okay, good.
Other comments, questions? All right, thank you. And without objection, I'll stay on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, one question if I may.
Go ahead, Jeff.
In the instances where we've had folks come in, is that reimbursable charges that we have paid for those folks, or do they typically?
Anyone, like Charlotte that's come in and assisted us,
Right.
I don't know of any charging that they've done. It's similar to the mutual aid agreement.
Right, okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. All right, Danny, let's see, you got the last 4 items. Late application for age exclusion. First one, number 18.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. The tax office, of course, offers what we call the age exclusion for those that are 65 or older or totally and permanently disabled. To apply for this application, you do it between January the 2nd and June 1st of each year. Any late applications, which in this case we had one from Mr. James Hunter, I have to deny based on general statute, bring it to the commission to say whether they feel it should be approved for good cause. And if you've read this, Mr. Hunter is 86 years old. He suffers from COPD, among other health issues, and if the application would have been received timely, it would have been approved. So I'm here to offer this to you gentlemen to either approve or disapprove this application.
Comments, questions?
I agree with the approval as recommended, approval.
Other comments? All right. If there's no other objection, that'll remain on the agenda. And then we'll go to item 19, Danny, release refund report.
Okay. Release and refunds, and I put sort of a summary sheet, should have it in your little packet like this right here, I believe it's underneath. We've got releases in the amount of $178,304.15, and I would like to explain a little bit on that. The way that new tax system works, anything that involves a release, whether it's rebuild or not, shows up on this release report. We had a couple on here, one for North Carolina lakefront property. When the bill went out, it did not reflect it reflected the entire bill. Part of it should have been deferred because it was in the use value program, so we had to release off that $7,000 there. We had Duke Energy, $120,000. That's a public utility, and there's several things you gotta look at whenever you bill that. And the clerk, when she did it, she billed it to $120,000. And then as she read on down there, there was an addition that goes on there, so that actually turned into a lot larger rebill than it was release. And so if you look at those, and let's see, there was one more, Linville Land Company. This was a split from 2016 deed, or 2015 deeds, and it got missed, and so we had to do a credit and a rebill on that. So if you looked at all of those major items right there, which I did, that would have reduced that releases from $178,000 down to a little over $19,000. So I don't want you to feel like we're giving the farm away. It's just the way that we have to do the paperwork. And I'll move on. We had refunds of $6,152.39. The VTS, the adjustments of $554.47, and proration on VTS of $905.41. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Any questions for Danny on either one of these?
Yeah,
items?
Mr. Chairman, he picked out, I had highlighted, really wrote some notes about the ones that he had mentioned under adjustment. And I wanted a little more explanation on the 7438 went to 0. And that's more than just an adjustment by far. When you go to 0, that's a.
What happens, what I'm trying to show you on this, what happens whenever we have an adjustment on a bill, the bill goes out, let's just say the bill goes out for $100, okay? And there has to be an adjustment on that bill. That whole $100 is wiped off of that bill, and a new bill is created with the $110 on it, or the $90, whatever it would be.
So they got an entire new bill?
Yes.
And what was that bill? You probably can't answer that, don't answer.
No, I couldn't answer that from the seat right here.
On Duke Energy, you had the explanation of the additional value. You went from 120 to 0, and they had additional value. Why didn't the tax go up if it's additional value?
It does on a new bill. The system does not show you the amount of release and then the amount that you add on there. It doesn't show that offset. It just shows you straight release. But I'll be glad to provide the paperwork to show you where those were rebilled at more or less value, depending on which it was.
Well,
In Duke Energy, it was quite a bit more.
that's the reason you're the tax collector. You said,
I knew those
split
would-
one pieces of property into 3 pieces of property, and we didn't have 3 bills. We end up with 0 on that too, and I'm saying, wow, what happened to that money? But
Yeah, it zeroes that bill out and creates an entirely new bill. But it does not
so
show
could
those
we have?
increases.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, just a
You're
second.
fine.
Could we have, when you do that, recovered in a separate, same, or is that too much comment about it?
To go in and do that on each of these individuals would be a lot more work than you or I have time to do. But, you know, on a large one like this, which I brought to your attention intentionally, I'll be glad to provide some additional
Yes,
paperwork in the future.
yeah, I wouldn't, it just, when a big price goes to 0, and it just raised a real flag to me, so.
Well, that's the reason that like I said, that I highlighted these so that you would know that, hey, Danny did look at these and he
Yes.
does know what's going on.
Yeah, you did highlight it.
Other comments or questions? All right, Danny, item 20, tax collection report.
Okay, tax
For
collection report, this is gonna sort of go, you've got it all there in front of you, I'll go over the percents. Whenever you look at property tax versus motor vehicle tax, we're 64.88% collected on property tax, motor vehicle 28.84. Of course, you know, motor vehicle tax is added to each month as people renew their tags. And under the category late listing penalty, we're at 39.73% of budget. Delinquent taxes, 56.33%, and current year taxes overall, which that's property tax and motor vehicle, is 61.44.
Is that about what we, every year? I mean, is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, everything seems to be, actually, the delinquent taxes, I think, are a little increased, same time last year.
Any comments on September's report?
None for me.
All right, that'll stay on the agenda. And the last one, Danny, is EMS collection report.
EMS collections report. EMS collection report, we're at 14.85% of budget, and that's through August.
Comments or questions on the EMS report? All right, without objection, that'll stay on the agenda. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We don't have any items for decision tonight, and as far as reports go, I just want to really, I don't know how you all were, but I was really blown away yesterday on the little outing we had to the park. And Brian, I know you're the leader, but I think Scott and Tim, I mean, they should be complimented for their work on, and whoever else worked on that. I mean, from seeing that park when we went out there, when it was just a trail and rode out there, and to see what's happening out there today, and then being able to visualize by the map what they're gonna do. I don't know how you all were, but I was completely blown away. I mean, I think that thing is gonna be, if this world goes on, 100 years from now, people are gonna be using that park. And I mean, it's just amazing. Really, the thought going into it, Brian, I think your people just, all the people involved just did a wonderful job. And I mean, we can see their vision now, what they're gonna do in the future with either yurts or cabins or tree houses or whatever. And then the state building the boat ramp around there. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And it looks like we'll be looking at public partnerships and some of that stuff. And I mean, it's gonna be a great facility. I think it'll be even better than the present state park that we have, I think, when we get it done. So, I don't know how you all feel about it and the comments you might have, but I just thought it was a great outing, and it just, like I say, to me, it was mind-boggling. Brian, you might want to comment.
Well, I'd just say we've got some excellent people working for us, and they had the vision, and this board was willing to let them run, and you're getting results. And I will have some photographs of some of the different capital projects that we have going on. When we have a regular meeting in the reports section, I'll update you on all our projects.
Any other comments on our outing yesterday? I mean, that was...
I'll just add that I enjoyed it, and it is good to see how much progress can be made in just a little while.
I'm just glad they stopped us at a mile on the hiking. A mile was enough. But anyways, anything else that commissioners want to say? Anything before, any discussion items or anything? If not, we'll ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
And all those in favor, please raise your right hand.